Good Tuesday morning, everybody. This is Arnie. Welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. Lenny, great job this morning. It's great to hear you back this week. I missed you last week, buddy. And it's good to have you back and all the great tidbits and nuggets you gave us this morning. And I will look out for that center fielder coming up for St. Louis, no doubt about it. So here we go. Let's take a look at our current standings. Let's start in the, well, why not? The American League East. Let's do that. And last night, the Yankees, they won their 9th out of 10th. They beat the Blue Jays. It was a lot closer than it should have been, folks. The Yankees jumped out to a 10-2 lead, and the last of those runs, you thought it was just superfluous, right? But Giancarlo Stanton, I told you yesterday, I watched him over the weekend. He was hitting the ball with great authority. That continued yesterday or last night in the Bronx.
High fly ball, deep left center. There it goes! See ya! A bomb by Stanton. A 3-run shot. It's 10-2 Yankees.
Well, you can see it coming, Michael. His advance got closer and closer. I don't know that you can see one that far coming. I don't know that I've seen one go there in this stadium. Wow, Stanton's first of the year, and it was a massive bomb right there.
It went 445 feet. It had an exit velocity of 111 miles per hour. I told you I watched him this weekend hit scorchers. He was barreling the ball this past weekend against Houston in his first weekend back after being out all season. And let me ask you this. If I had told you that on June 25th, the Yankees would be in first place with a 50-28 record and leading the second place team in the division by 5 games and had just won 9 out of 10, and that Giancarlo Stanton had just hit his first home run of the season, would you have ever thunk it back in May, April, March? No, you wouldn't. Here we are, the end of June, Stanton's first home run of the year, and look for many more of those to come. They now lead the Blue Jays. They lead the Blue Jays by 21.5 after beating them last night. They lead the Rays, more important, more relevant, by 5 games in the division. They lead the Red Sox by 8 games in the division. Last night, the Red Sox with a big win, 6-5 over the White Sox. It was the return of Rafael Devers to the lineup for the Red Sox. He had struggled with a hamstring problem over the weekend. Back in the lineup last night. The Red Sox win a big one. They continue today with their series with the White Sox. You know, yesterday, the Yankees were up 10-2, like I said. The Blue Jays came back. Jonathan Holder sent down to AAA. He imploded last night. And so the Yankees will be making a move today, calling someone up from AAA. The Yankees and Red Sox play 2 more games before they're off, both Thursday and Friday, to travel to England, where they will play this week against each other over across the bay, so to speak, across the Atlantic Ocean, and they'll play 2 games there. So the bullpen was taxed a little bit last night, but they do continue on winning. Again, the Yankees lead the Rays by 5, and they lead the Red Sox by 8. Now, in the American League Central, the Twins, they continue to lead the division. And they're 50-27. They still have the best record by a half a game over the Yankees in the American League. But their lead in the division, it's dwindling, okay? It is definitely dwindling. And last night, the Tribe, they were taking on Kansas City. 9 innings wouldn't resolve it. They had to go extra innings. And in the 10th inning, up walks Jason Kipnis. And he was ready to go home.
1-0 pitch. Like that.
There it is! Deep right field! Good night!
Kipnis homers in the 10th. And let me tell you, that huge lead that the Twins had just a few days ago, and this is the great thing about baseball, isn't it? The Twins are now leading the Cleveland Indians by only 7.5 games. That was a double-digit lead not that long ago. The Twins are 50-27. The Indians are 43-35. The Indians have won 14 of 19. They are 15-6 in the month of June. They've won 4 in a row. They continue at home today against the Kansas City Royals. They're getting hot. Ramirez last night, 2 for 2. And, Ramirez has been, around 195 for most of the season, right? Well, not anymore. And the question is Jose Ramirez getting hot? Well, I don't know, but I do know this. His average is up to 217 after a 2 for 2 night last night. Lindor's hitting 289. The rookie, Mercado's hitting 305. Carlos Santana in the third hole hitting 291. And here's a good question, guys, for you chat roomers. Let's see here. We got a rookie, Bobby Bradley, up. He went 1 for 3 in his first game Sunday with a double. Last night he went 1 for 3 with another double. Another run driven in. He's 2 for 6, 1 for 3 in each of his games. How fantasy relevant do you think Bobby Bradley will be? It looks like the Tribe is going to give him a shot, let him play every day. He's DHing the first 2 games that he's played. So, is he worth a flyer? I think so. I like him. I like where he's batting. He's batting like 6th in the order, not at the very bottom, not near the top, not so much pressure on the kid. He's got a lot of power. He hit 24 home runs in 67 games at AAA this year. He's here to stay, so say the Tribe, if he continues to hit. And with them winning, they're 8 games over 500. Their best record so far this year. And Clevenger, he's scheduled to come back and pitch on Friday. Let's see. Mark Youngblood, Ramirez will get hot, right? He has to be. Here's what he does, Mark. He's done this. He's cold the first 2 months. He gets hot the second 2 months. And then he gets cold again at the end of the year. So here's my fantasy advice. Let Ramirez have 3 or 4 weeks of, red hot. Trade him high. I mean, yeah, he's a first rounder. You should be able to get first round value for him. Let him have a really hot, scalding month of July, for example. Trade him off in August. Trade high. It's economics, right? It's fantasy economics. But thanks for being with us, Mark. Beach Bum, good morning. Cha-cha. Leonard Donaldson. It's good to see you guys this morning. And here we continue to go. Now, we're going to talk about the wild card in a moment. But in the American League West this morning, neither Houston nor Texas played last night, okay? In fact, neither did Oakland. So the standings there remain the same, with Houston maintaining a 6.5 game lead over Texas and an 8-game lead over Oakland. As we look at the American League wild card this morning, the Yankees, Twins, and Houston, of course, they're all division leaders. Tampa Bay has control over the first wild card slot as we speak. And they have a 2-game lead over the second wild card leader, which currently is the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland leads the second wild card over Texas by 1 game, by Boston by 1 game, by Oakland 2.5 games, and the Angels 4.5 games. Now, there was talk about, would Cleveland make trades? Well, I think yes, but not a frontline pitcher. Are you kidding me? I could see them trying to get a bat and trading some minor league talent to get that bat. Nolan Jones is raking at high A ball, and he's a top prospect. He is definitely a trade chip because he's not ready this year. If Cleveland feels they need a bat, look for them to trade a young guy like that who could get you a good major league bat right now from a non-contender. And of course, then the issue is, where do you go looking for that non-contender? Because as we just said, there's so many teams that are in the wild card hunt. Do you go looking Seattle? Do you go looking Toronto? Do you go looking Detroit? Hey, there you go. How about Detroit? How about a Nick Castellanos? That would be a great pickup, I think, for Cleveland. And Detroit, looking to get younger and looking to get rid of salary, a single A, a double A prospect like a Nolan Jones I just mentioned could be to Detroit's liking. Look for a trade. The only problem there, of course, you're talking about trading within a division. Teams don't usually like to do that. When you look out in the National League, well, the wild card there is even closer. So my point being, it's going to be hard to make trades this year with teams that are out of it because so many teams are not out of it yet. But that's a look at the American League standings and the American League wild card on June 25th. Now, we go to the National League. Last night, Atlanta was playing the Cubs, division leaders, right? There you go. And Julio Teheran was pitching against John Lester. Lester looked really good. Teheran did not. Teheran looked horrible last night. In fact, let's talk about Julio Teheran. He was killing it in April and May. I mean, having just like a Renaissance man, right? Well, his last two starts, Julio Teheran, 13 runs he's given up in his last two starts. Last night, 7 runs he surrendered on 9 hits. He only struck out 2 batters. He walked 3, took the loss for Atlanta. Atlanta maintains a 5.5 game lead over Philly. Philly cut a game off that lead last night by beating them up on the Mets 13-7. And Philly did something last night that I think is really interesting. They moved their leadoff hitter. They've mixed their order around a little bit, okay? So last night you had Scott Kingery leading off for the Phillies. He went 3 for 6 last night. Stole a base, scored 2 runs. Maybe the Phillies have found their leadoff batter. You know, they lost McCutchen to season-ending injury. They've been scuffling, not winning lately. They've only won 2 out of 10. But now they've got Kingery, who went off last night against the Mets. Look for him to bat leadoff again today. I don't know if Kingery's available in the fantasy league or not, but I tell you this, when he was available in my fantasy league, I picked him up. And he has provided great dividends. He's multi-positional. But moving up in that batting order, don't you just love guys that bat in the top half of the batting order? And if Kingery's going to bat leadoff, and he did, and the Phillies won, I can't see them taking him out of that because what they were doing for the last 2 weeks, it just wasn't working. So we'll see. The Nats, 8 games back, did not play. They play tonight in Miami. Matt Scherzer will be pitching. We'll talk about that matchup in a little bit. Mad Max is a great pitcher, but he does not typically fare that well against Miami for some reason. And so I certainly, if I am an owner of Max Scherzer, I'm starting him tonight, but I'm tempering my expectations. Earlier this year, I was doing a Saturday show, and he was pitching that Saturday. And I told you guys, if you were listening that Saturday, don't start Scherzer Day. I got a bad vibe about it. And he lost. The Marlins absolutely annihilate him. And so there's some good hitters on that team we'll get to in the later segment of this show today. But they do play the Marlins, and they are 8 games out of first place. The Mets, with that loss to Philly, dropped to 9 back in the division. They've lost their last 2. They continue today with their series in Philadelphia. In the Central, the Cubs, with that win over Atlanta, have won their last 2. And that 8-3 win last night keeps them in first place. They were a half a game going into last night. Milwaukee was idle. The Cubs' win makes them 43-35, and they now have a 1-game lead over the Brewers in the division. The Brewers are in second place. The Cardinals, who we'll talk about in a little bit in their bullpen, 2.5 games out. The Reds 6 out, and the Pirates 6 out. The Pirates have won 4 in a row, and now they go to Houston to play a set this week. Houston had been reeling, had lost 6 straight, until Verlander showed up Sunday and salvaged the last game of that 4-game set with the Yankees. I think Houston might be a little angry, don't you? But we'll see how they do against the Pirates in this series coming up. Out west, the Dodgers, 54-26. Losers to Arizona last night. That was a Greinke-Kershaw matchup. Ketel Marte, he had a great night last night for Arizona. The Diamondbacks win 8-5. Let's take a look at that just real quick. Ketel Marte went 2 for 4, yet another multi-hit effort. He's up to 312 on the season. Christian Walker homered, went 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs. LaCastro 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Greinke went 6 innings, surrendered 4 earned runs, struck out 6. For LA last night, Kershaw went 6 innings. He also gave up 4 earned runs, only struck out 2, did give up 2 home runs. Jock Peterson went 1 for 5 leading off and playing first base. The Dodgers have moved him over to first base to get him more at bats. The